What if I told you that a prophet was about to leave this world without dying? No grief, no funeral, no burial. God was preparing something extraordinary. But before that happened, Elijah had one final journey to make, and his faithful student Elisha was determined not to leave his side. After Elijah's great victory on Mount Carmel, where God sent fire from heaven and proved that he alone is the true God, Elijah continued serving the Lord faithfully for several years. As the time approached for Elijah to leave the earth, God revealed that his ministry was coming to an end. Elijah was traveling from place to place, and his faithful servant Elisha followed him everywhere. First, they went from Gilgal to Bethel. Along the way, Elijah said to Elisha, "Stay here, the Lord has sent me to Bethel." But Elisha refused to leave him. "As surely as the Lord lives, and as you live, I will not leave you." So they traveled together. When they arrived at Bethel, a group of prophets approached Elisha and quietly asked, "Do you know that the Lord is going to take your master away from you today?" Elisha replied, "Yes, I know, but do not speak of it." Then Elijah and Elisha continued their journey. Next, they traveled to Jericho. Again, Elijah told Elisha to stay behind, but once again, Elisha refused. "As surely as the Lord lives and as you live, I will not leave you." Elisha was determined to remain faithful to his mentor until the very end. The prophet at Jericho also told Elisha that Elijah would soon be taken away. Yet, Elisha remained focused and stayed by Elijah's side. As they continued towards the Jordan River, something remarkable was about to happen. Elijah and Elisha stood near the Jordan River. 50 prophets watched from a distance. What will happen next? Would Elisha receive Elijah's blessings before he was taken away? The answer would change his life forever. Moral lesson part 1. In a world filled with confusion and wrong choices, God still looks for people who will remain faithful to him. Elijah and Elisha was ordinary men who honored God and allowed him to use them in extraordinary ways. Real change begins when individuals choose to obey God and live according to his word. Effective living starts with the right attitude towards God. When we walk in humility, obedience, and a heart of service, God can work through us to accomplish his purpose. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Proverbs 3:5. Humble yourself before the Lord and he will lift you up. James 4:10. God can use anyone who is willing to follow him faithfully. Stay humble, stay obedient, and let God guide your life. When Elijah and Elisha reached the Jordan River, Elijah took off his cloak, rolled it up, and struck the water. Immediately, the river parted, and the two men crossed over on dry ground. After crossing, Elijah asked Elisha, "Tell me, what can I do for you before I'm taken away from you?" Elisha replied, "Let me inherit a double portion of your spirit." Elijah told him that it was a difficult request, but if Elisha saw him being taken away, his request would be granted. As they continued walking and talking together, something amazing happened. Suddenly, a chariot of fire and horses of fire appeared and separated them. Then Elijah was taken up to heaven in a whirlwind. Elisha watched and cried out, my father, the chariots and horsemen of Israel." Elijah disappeared from sight. Elisha picked up Elijah's cloak, which has fallen to the ground. Returning to the Jordan River, he struck the water with the cloak and said, "Where now is the Lord, the God of Elijah?" Immediately, the river parted again, and Elisha crossed over on dry ground. The prophets who were watching recognized that God's spirit now rested on Elisha. Although Elijah's ministry has ended, God's work continued through a new servant. God has taken Elijah to heaven, but he did not leave his people without a leader. Elisha will continue the work of God and perform many miracles in the years ahead. Moral lesson part 2. Elijah's cloak was a symbol of his authority as God's prophet. When Elisha asked for a double portion of Elijah's spirit, he was not asking to become more famous or powerful. He wanted God's strength so he could continue God's work faithfully. God granted Elisha's request because his motives were pure. In the same way, we should examine our hearts when we pray. If our desire is to honor God and serve others, we should not be afraid to ask God for wisdom, strength, and greater opportunities to serve him. Elijah was one of only 2 people in the Bible who were taken to heaven without experiencing death. The other was Enoch. Later, Jesus Christ also ascended into heaven after his resurrection. These events remind us of God's power and his authority over life itself. Elisha's crossing of Jordan River showed that God had chosen him to continue Elijah's ministry. Though Elijah was gone, God's work continued through a new servant. If any of you lack wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all. James 1:5. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. God's work does not stop when one servant finishes his mission. God raises up faithful people to continue his work. When our hearts are right, God can use us in powerful ways for his glory.
If you enjoy powerful Bible stories and life-changing moral lessons like this, please subscribe to this channel. These stories take a lot of time, effort, and prayer to create, and they can inspire and encourage people all around the world.